Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show on this, the 16th of Thursday, the 16th of November, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you guys here. I wanted to show you guys something. This was an experiment done with artificial intelligence. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description to this. But basically what it's all about is it's a computer simulation. And the little red dots, they chase after the little green dots. And the little green dots chase after the little red dots. And what's it all about? Well, the green dots represented in this experiment were creatures that, if they're left alone, will multiply all on their own. But they got to be left alone for a certain amount of seconds. It's timed into the computer. I think it's like 5 seconds. And then they reproduce and double. So they split and become two, the green ones. Well, the little red ones are the predators. They're only successful if they can eat the little green ones. And if they don't eat within a certain period of time, they die. They disappear. And so the more green ones is there, the more food for the predators, and the more the predators reproduce. This is like our world we have right here. And if you watch this experiment, it's very interesting. And I'm going to put a link in the description. I recommend you watch it. This is like a macro environment, or a micro environment of our environment we have here. And what happens in this is, when these two groups expand out and they grow to a certain point, and there becomes too many predators, well, then they run out of the green ones to support their system. Now think about what's happened with humanity and us in general. Going back to the 1800s. They had a lot of small farms out in the country and stuff. They lived a lifestyle. It was not a predator type lifestyle. Predatory lifestyle. It was a lifestyle that is more like the. It was a farming type. It was totally different than it is today. We've encouraged. What we've done is, through the school systems, we've encouraged, through sports, through entertainment and everything, we've encouraged people, and this is a learned behavior amongst humans. Now, see, in these creatures on the screen here, this is not a learned behavior. To be a predator, it's selected, and it can't be changed. You're either a predator, or you're a green one, or you're a red one on the screen. But amongst humanity, if being living a predatory type of lifestyle is encouraged and rewarded, then just like in this simulation, there'll be more predators out there. It'll be emulated. And take a look at sports. There's no prize for number 2. This encourages a predator type of behavior. Doesn't mean the person is a predator, but it's, like I say, it's a learned behavioral skill. And if you teach a child from when he's very early on, you say, you got to be a winner, son. Look at the sports here, and they emulate. They put on high. They make them almost godlike. The heroes of the athletes in our community. And from an early age, children are taught in Little League or whatever to be number 1, strive for number 1. In other words, be a chief. Don't be an Indian. Be the hero. But here's the thing. What good is the chief if there is no tribe? If he's all by himself sitting on a rock? Well, he starves to death. And that's what happens in this experiment. The little creatures starve to death. They overpopulate if there's too many of them. Too many heroes. Too many predators. But this is what we're encouraging in our society. Not just in sports. but in almost every aspect of our society, especially money. Money encourages it. If you don't have money, you're not going to survive. So you got to get out there and be as predatory as you can to get as much money as you can before you die. This is the kind of society we have. And so what's happened is it's because can be a learned behavior. Some people, it comes to them naturally. They're naturally a predator. But mostly it's a learned behavior. But you got to understand, it's the green ones here that supply the food for these predators, the little red predators. And what happens if all the green ones die out and there is no green ones anymore? What happens if it's all chiefs? No Indians, no tribe any longer to support them, to feed them, to produce the food. And you say, well, agriculture's still here. We still have farms and stuff. Yes, this is true. But the predators are running the farms. Anyway, talked about this enough. Let's get on and take a look at some of the news. And see, this is where I'm coming with this. Where I'm coming with this, I'll explain to you directly. Is it happens in this experiment that when it becomes too many predators, there's a huge die-out. And take a look at the 1800s. We had all these small farms, and we had all... These people were not predatory. They didn't have predatory instincts. They weren't taught from youth to be predators. They were taught to youth be upright, upstanding citizens, and they worked on their small farms, and they produced food. Not unlike this simulation. What do we got now? How's things changed? How has civic duty and responsibility changed in the last 100 years? How has people's personalities changed, and how has their characters changed morally and ethically within society? Do you notice these changes? Do you notice that the people are becoming more and more ruthless day by day? Okay. Now, talking about getting into this, getting into what's happening in the fighting in Gaza. Fighting is about to expand in Gaza. Comes a day after Israeli forces begin searching hospital. What's happening is Israeli forces are leaving leaflets warning Palestinians to flee parts of southern Gaza. Okay, so they dropped leaflets on northern Gaza a little while ago. They said, get out and go to the south. A lot of them did. Now they're dropping leaflets on southern Gaza and saying, move someplace else. So this is what's going on in the war right now. Not good. Now, you know, it appears to me like things have cooled or backed away a little bit right now from the brink. And what's the brink? What's the brink? If you step over the brink, we could have a nuclear war. Worldwide nuclear war. Could be an all-out Armageddon type nuclear war. But it seems like things have stepped back a little bit. Cooler heads are prevailing just a little bit right now. I can see a cooling down coming of this situation, very possibly. But wars are extremely unpredictable, so don't hold me to this, you know. But it seems like it's not quite as bad as it was when the Israel forces were first entering into Gaza and things were really hot. Things could have exploded out of control very quickly. It doesn't seem like Iran said, well, this is it. But no, they didn't do it. And now here we are, sometime later. It's starting to look like things are cooling a little bit. We just have to keep our fingers crossed, guys, you know. Now, this might be a little bit of a part of it, I don't know, but U.S. and China agree to resume military communications. This is a very good thing. If there's no military communications, for crying out loud, a meteor could come down, say, on China, and they might mistake it. And if there's no military communications, how would they know the difference differentiate between a meteor coming in and a warhead? They might not. But see, when there's good military communications, they're able to discern, because America says, hey, that's not ours. We're not shooting at you. That must be a meteor. Or we're tracking it. It's a meteor, they might tell China. And the same thing applies to Russia. In fact, Russia and China do have communications. And, I believe communications between Russia and the United States have been cut off. So this is a very good thing. This could be the one thing standing between us and an accidental nuclear war. Because that could happen, and it's almost happened a couple times in history. It's almost happened that they've almost had an accidental all-out nuclear war. They come within seconds of pushing the button. Several times in history. In modern history. Okay. Walmart crashes on disappointing guidance, warns that consumer spending is deteriorating. Oh, really? This is just the tip of the iceberg. Why are things starting to cool off just a little bit? I'll tell you why I think things are cooling off a little bit. We got Iran. Iran didn't attack, but Iran's hopeful to get that money was cut off to them. It's billions of dollars, and they're hopeful maybe they might be able to get back in and get some of that enrichment. Let's just call it that way. Possibly too, Iran might be working to try to obtain their nuclear weapons or something. Something's going on here. But Iran, things are not quite as hot as they were. And as far as Ukraine, they're not quite as hot because Ukraine is they're going to have trouble sourcing weapons. I can see this coming. The handwriting's on the wall. They go through tremendous amounts of ammunition. And I don't think the West is going to be able to keep up. They're pumping it out, and their gun barrels will be empty after a while. If they don't get the ammunition. As simple as that. And so, as far as the whole thing goes, okay. So, we were talking about consumer spending deteriorating. Russia and China are sitting over there and they're watching the West. And it's like our financial system over here in the West. It's like we've drank a cup of poison and they're waiting for it to take effect. Financial suicide is what we're committing over here in the West. They embarked us around 1914. They embarked us on a path of destruction of our financial system, and it was all in the math. It was a Ponzi scheme that culminates in well, you guys can see it every day. You see it when you think about what you used to. I'll give you an example. Can of soup. Campbell's soup, right? I opened up a can of Campbell's soup yesterday and I said, oh, what is it? Looks so tiny. And I thought about the size the can used to be. Well, it was about a ½ an inch less diameter than the old Campbell's soup can. And it was about a ½ an inch less tall. The can looked the same, but it was smaller. It was obviously smaller, reduced size. Now, going back about 4 or 5 years ago, I used to buy them 2 for $1. Can of Campbell's soup. Now they go on sale, and that was on sale though. That was a good sale, 2 for $1. Now they go on sale, and they're like $1.29. That's almost 3 times the price. And by reducing the height and the diameter of the can, there's only about 2/3 as much soup in there as they used to have in the old cans. So when you take into consideration 2/3 as much soup, and almost 3 times the price. It makes it more like 4 or 5 times the price it was just 4 years ago. Now, that means that it's going up by about 40% per year. You know? Consumer spending is deteriorating. Everybody is broke. And the people that aren't broke are getting down so they have to pinch pennies. What do they want out of us? At this point, they're going to be squeezing blood out of a turnip. Let's change the article here. Guess what they're making now? They're making meat from cells in a laboratory. But they're upscaling it. They're upscaling the production of it, and they're going to try to replace traditional meat with this stuff. It says a familiar odor or aroma wafted through the Believer Meats test kitchen earlier this year as researchers and development chef Andres Volonchin flipped sizzling strips of chicken conjured from cells. Scientists, not farmers, produce this chicken, with more than 150 startups right now are chasing after an ambitious goal: meat that doesn't require raising and killing animals, that's affordable and tastes and feels like the meat we eat now. It's part of a young industry aimed to use cell biology to reduce the environmental impact of the world's ever-increasing demand for meat and change global protein production the way electric cars are shaking up the auto industry. So here we go. Maybe they'll be able to transform the bugs. In other words, take the bugs, grind them all up into a mash or something, and use them to make these cells with. Or something like that. Something to that effect, you know. Which would be interesting, but I don't know. Maybe if I had a couple shots and went out there and they were cooking it and I was really hungry and had a bit of what do they call that? A couple shots. So I'm a little bit tipsy as well. I might try a piece of this stuff. And I might eat it all if it's not rubbery. Just saying. Okay, silver price today. It's going up again today. But here's the thing, guys. Don't go getting all excited. Between $21 and $24 is the regular movement we've been having and experiencing now for a considerable long period of time. Between $24 and $21.50, right? And so we haven't passed that. We're still in that range at $23.93. Barely. We're at the high side of it, very high side of it, but we're still in that range. I'm not going to get all excited about silver and say this is it. Remember I was telling you that yesterday's show, I said, okay, if we get this massive rally in silver, we're going to see a short supply. Right? Well, that still holds true. But I said massive rally. I didn't say the price moving up to the top end of its range that it's been in for ages now. And then going back down again. Right? So I'm not going to get excited until I'm sure this is it. Okay? And I'm not going to be sure this is it. It starts to cross like the $28 line, maybe $30 line, heading up. I can tell you, when it crosses 35 and it's heading up, then we know. And that's when you're going to see the silver start to disappear, really disappear. Demand will increase exponentially because the conditions that create that are going to cause the rush into silver. You say, well, what are those conditions? Those conditions are a loss of purchasing power of your fiat currencies. Now, this is coming. This has to happen because of this fiat Ponzi scheme. And this is why Russia and China, this may be why things are cooling off a little bit, is they're sitting there and they know we've drunk the Kool-Aid, the poison. And they're sitting there and they're watching us and they're saying, when's it going to take effect? When are they going to keel over from within? Because everything in the system runs on money, and if your money is corrupted, your system has to fail. And not only that, leadership. What about China? They got a strong leader sitting at the top. What about Russia? They got a strong leader sitting at the top. Now, the thing about that is the commands and everything all center from one spot. The commands for Russia, the commands for China all center from one spot. But what about when you've got a whole bunch of different people that are deciding on the commands, but they all don't think alike and they're all squabbling between one another and everything? And what about the other countries sit over there and they observe that and they say to themselves, hey, you know what? No distinct leadership. Everybody wants something different. You know, and they've drunk the Kool-Aid. Why should we go in and try to confront them and take them out by force when they're militarily, they are so powerful? Most powerful military, the West has the most powerful military by far. Why not just sit back and let the poison do its trick? Maybe that's what they're thinking. And it would make a lot of sense. Because the Federal Reserve, through their omnipotency of being able to control money and enrich themselves, have created a Ponzi scheme that's on an exponential function. And we're almost to the end of this exponential function. And that last little bit of the exponential goes so fast. Goes faster and faster and faster. Plus, they've kind of suppressed it for a while now. Pushing it back, called kicking the can down the road. What this does is it makes it like a coiled spring. So when it's finally let loose, it goes sprung. Yeah, you know, I mean, the price on stuff, Weimar Germany has proved how this functions. And how it works and how quick it works. You think it's bad now? Wait until stuff's going up 50% a day. That's right, I said it. Money ceases to function properly. Nobody wants to take it. They want to take something else of value. They're saying, I'm not going to give you my good stuff here unless I mark it up for tomorrow so that I know I'm going to make a profit. If I'm going to take that crummy money that ain't worth nothing, or not money, currency, Federal Reserve note, that ain't going to be worth nothing. By tomorrow, it's only going to be worth half as much as it is. Think of the demand on gold and silver, because gold and silver at that point are going to be going up 50% a day. The dollar go down 50% a day, they go up in value 50% a day. Making 50% on your money valued in fiat currency, but how do you sell? How do you sell? Because at that point, when we're right into really bad, the serious part of the hyperinflation, say you sold $1,000 worth of whatever, precious metals. The next day to buy it back, it costs you $2,000. So the only way you're going to sell for the fiat dollars is sell it and then spend those fiat dollars really quick on something you need of value, equal value, because you don't want to hang on to the money. Nobody does when that starts to happen. There comes a certain point where all this actually gets going and all this actually gets started. First it has to start. It's like you got your lawnmower sitting out there in the yard, you know, and it's got essentially lawnmower blade in the bottom. It's like a flywheel. You need something to kickstart. That's what that cord on there is for. You pull the cord, spins it, and once that engine starts to fire over, that's what hyperinflation's like. Needs something to kickstart it. Generally, what kickstarts it is a short period, very short period of deflation. Because then what happens is then the government comes in, pours a lot of money in to try to cool down the deflation and get things going again. And when that money hits the scene, what happens is investors then, or people, general people involved, lose faith in the purchasing power of the currency. Once that starts, it's like the engine starting. Once that flywheel gets going, you don't want to stick your foot underneath there or you won't have a foot. Well, that's the way with the hyperinflation once it really gets going. Hasn't quite got going yet. The getting going part is called the acceleration phase. We haven't quite entered into that yet. We're on the deflation side, the trigger side, yet. Okay, the side where you got either deflation or disinflation. That's the trigger side. We're on the trigger side yet. So, okay, cryptocurrency today, Bitcoin. Oh, I forgot to do gold. Hold on. So silver's at 23.88. Gold is at $19.83. It's up $24. Now, cryptocurrency today, we're looking at Bitcoin at 36,598, Ethereum at 2008, XRP at $62.30. No, I got a lot of guys, XRP guys out there, just yippee, yippee, it's $63. Oh my God, I'm a millionaire. No, sorry, it's 62 cents. And they're like, right now, they're like, oh, if they're listening to my show, you know. Some people just listen to the audio part of it. They say, oh my God, XRP was $63. Oh my God, I'm rich. No, sorry. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 141 points at 34,849. Taking a look at crude oils at 73.72. It's down $2.94. Bonds and rates. Now, we're seeing the bond yields falling again. 10 years at 4.46. It's fell 6.8 basis points. And the U.S. 30 years at 4.64. And it's fell 4.6 basis points. And finishing off with the dollar index. And the dollar index is dropping today. It's not fallen a lot, but it's fell some. At 104.24. Appreciate you guys watching my show. Really means a lot to me. Thank you guys. Remember, leave your comments. You know, I try to read all the comments. I particularly like questions. Don't get an awful lot of questions. I try to answer them all whenever I get a question. Unless it's some sort of a stupid question. Doesn't make any sense. You know. Anyway, you know, questions about the financial system or something like that. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.